And I give the call to the Honourable the Leader of the Opposition.
My question is to the Prime Minister. Why did Labor lie to Australians about your plan to tax them more?
Order. I just want to deal with the word lie, and I have a number of order. We just want to make sure that it is not directed to a person. Former speakers have directed it to parties, political governments. So I'm just going to be careful with that word today to make sure it's not directed to an individual. Just putting everyone on notice. I've got a list of examples here where we can have that withdrawn. So as long as everyone knows the rules, we'll be fine. Give the call to the Prime Minister.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Leader of the Opposition for his question. We are changing the tax system to give young people a fair crack at their first home. That is what we are doing. That is what we are doing.
Order. The member for Forest. Order. Members on my left will cease interjecting. Prime Minister. Order. There is far too much noise. We are not. Order. We are not. If the member for Herbert has a prop, he'll not use that. Great. Just putting him on notice as well, so everyone's crystal clear. No props today as well. If any props are used, you won't be here for the remainder of question time. When the House comes to order, we'll hear from the Prime Minister.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. This is a change in our policy, and I'm upfront about that. But unless we act now, we're looking at a generation missing out. And indeed, someone who was appointed by the Leader of the Opposition had this to say when reflecting about how their political party was going. I quote, "We were timid. We weren't prepared to lean into the challenges and the lived experience of the next generation of Australians. I'm quite happy to put things up that will robustly challenge the status quo if it means we're going to build a better future."
The member for Herbert will leave the chamber. He's holding up a prop. I've asked him not to do that. He'll leave. We're not having props today. I can be crystal clear on this. Nice try, but we're not having them today or any other day, OK?
I can see you there anyway, Phil.
There's far too much noise. The House is going to come to order and the Prime Minister is going to be heard in silence.
That was the Shadow Treasurer talking in February. Words of wisdom and reflection from the Shadow Treasurer. Words of wisdom and reflection, Mr Speaker. When reflecting on how well they were going in replacing the former member for Farrer as leader by this bloke here.
Question time in Canberra this week, and Opposition Leader Angus Taylor walked into Parliament with one very direct question for the Prime Minister. Not about policy detail. Not about a budget line. He wanted to know why the government changed its position on capital gains tax and negative gearing after promising Australians before the election that it would not touch either of them. This is genuinely significant, so let's break it down fast. Before the last election, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese told Australians clearly and repeatedly that negative gearing and capital gains tax concessions were not on Labor's agenda. It was not a vague answer. It was a direct commitment. And now, here in 2026, the government's budget has moved on both of those settings. When directly challenged in Parliament on whether he had misled the public before the election, Albanese acknowledged his government had changed its position. "We've changed our position when it comes to negative gearing," he told the chamber. That is a notable admission, and it is the line that has given the opposition the clearest opening they have had in weeks. Taylor put it to Parliament in direct terms. Labor promised not to change housing taxes, yet it misled. Labor promised not to change investment taxes, yet it deceived. Labor promised not to change taxes on farmers and small businesses, yet it bent the truth. Whether you agree with that framing or not, it lands as a sharp political argument precisely because the before and after comparison is easy to follow. Now the government's counterposition is that circumstances change, that policy evolves, and that a housing affordability crisis requires new thinking. That is a defensible argument on the policy merits. The challenge is that we changed our minds and we told you we wouldn't are two things that voters tend to hold in the same hand at the same time, and the combination is uncomfortable. The Prime Minister also pushed back on Taylor directly in Parliament, questioning whether Taylor's record as a party leader matched the expectations placed on him. So the exchange was lively in both directions. Here is the bigger picture. Trust is the currency of politics, and when pre-election commitments shift post-election, that currency takes a hit regardless of which party is governing. The question now is whether the government can make the policy case strongly enough that voters look past the promise, or whether this becomes the defining line of the next electoral cycle. This story is not going away. If you want sharp daily coverage of the moments that actually matter in Australian federal politics, subscribe to Federal Analysis and drop a comment below. We want to know what you think.